Welcome to this bonus episode of the Limitation Is A Mirage podcast. On this episode, I have Billy Kirkwood. Billy's a comedian, a radio DJ. He's wrote plays, he's wrote pantomimes. He has travelled the world with some wrestlers, and he's also a compere for Insane Championship Wrestling. So in this episode, we talk about all of that and more, how we got to know each other through Daly's Comedy Club when we were working together, some of the wrestlers that he's worked with. He shows me his Intercontinental belt, which was the most exciting thing that ever happened, ever. The belt's awesome. And he also claims he will bring it around the next time he's over so I can try it on. So I really hope you enjoy this conversation. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Billy, and I will speak to you again soon. Hey guys, welcome to this episode. I am here with Billy Kirkwood, who is a comedian, announcer, and all-round awesome guy. Billy, could you give a quick introduction for anyone that doesn't know who you are?
All right. First of all, I've got one question before we kick off. Actually, am I right to swear?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Fuck yes. Right. Okay. My name is Billy Kirkwood. Stand-up comedian, radio presenter as well. I also am the voice and broadcaster of Insane Championship Wrestling here in Scotland. I gig all over the planet. I do kids shows. I produce pantos. I do a little bit of everything. All right. Not awesome, but all right. I get there.
I think you did quite awesome. We met in Daly's a few years back when you came for was Oma last back? Was your first time over?
Do you know, I think I came across the Dailies once before, like on a mini tour. I think I came across once before, and then they came back. They brought me back for my last back, and then I ended up becoming like the host of the Late and Live for the next couple. I don't remember how that happened. I think I was on the lineup, and then I ended up becoming the host. So
I think you were on the lineup, and people had been on the beer before we got there, and then they were like, "Billy, can you sort of tie all this together so people?" Because it would have just been a complete random scene. Whenever you said about kids shows there, I found that interesting. That was the end of one of your shows, and we were talking, and then you'd said, "Oh, I do kids stuff as well," and I was thinking, how do you go from the madness that went on stage to, "Hello, children, how are you? Jolly good. Let's go."
I don't know, man. I think it's kind of like it's like the music's the same, but the words are different. There's not a huge difference. I mean, I always joke that there's several different Billies in here, but no, I don't find it that hard. I mean, I've written pantos and performed in pantos, and you got to know what the line is, but you got to make sure you're entertaining the kids and the families, and you can be silly. I mean, you look at somebody like Paul Curry, who's like you can be silly, just let your imaginations go. That's I think that's the whole thing, and I'm more than willing to do that as an adult, talking to an adults. So I have no fucking problem doing it with kids and just having a laugh. And their little imaginations and their little energy are just enough to carry you along and have a good time. I really enjoy doing kids shows. I'm gutted that this will be the first year without a panto in like 5 years. I'm really, really gutted.
I must be, like, my sister was involved in the Oma panto, and even for her, she's like, "That's just madness." That normally now is the time where you're starting to get involved and drill into it. Whenever you're talking about the acting the fool and messing about, do you think that's important for adults to do? I personally feel that adults are very adulty, for want of a better term. They need to be straight-laced and stuff. So,
I came from a house of men that had a sense of humor, certainly, but they didn't play a lot. Like I'm the youngest in my family, but like quite a margin. And I think I've always just had that interest in playing. I think for adults, it is just to let your imaginations go and like, what's the worst that can happen? Well, you're going to look a fool. Some stranger looks at you in tuts or something. Well, screw them. I think it's very important, particularly during this time, they've been kind of locked up in wherever 2020 is. I think it's really important to sort of let your imaginations fly, and a little bit of a release, whatever that is, whether it's going out and singing karaoke in the back garden or, just playing with your kids. I mean, it's easy to do when you've got little kids, I'll say that, because sometimes just get immersed in the game. Like, one of our favorite games is Robot Hand. Now, I'll explain what Robot Hand is very quickly. You get tinfoil, you put it in your hand, and you chase each other around. That is that game can go on for hours in our house. But it's just giving yourself.
It sounds like a fancier version of the claw from Liar Liar.
The claw, it's not a million miles away. Not a million miles away. But all we know is that if one of us comes into the room with tinfoil in our hand, it's fucking game on. It's game on. No matter what you're doing, you're just in from the shot. Like I've come in from like gigging or whatever, and I've been in a bad mood. Like, oh Jesus Christ! But if my son Maury is there with tinfoil in his hand, mood's gone because I'm getting chased by a fucking robot and I need to be ready to go. And I just think that's a big thing, is to remind yourself, you know, it's always better in the happy bus, the silly bus, I would say, than worrying about fiscal mortgage and decimal points and what have you every day, every moment of your life. You're going to make yourself sick.
Yeah, I love the idea that it's not a structured game where, right, we're going to go play robots. So whenever I talk to people, I always talk about like finding out the things in your family, like know your mom's favorite song, know your sister's favorite song. So if they're ever feeling sad, you can just, instead of going over and saying, "Oh, are you all right?" or "What's going on?" you can just play the song, and that elevates the mood. So the fact that you have a game that your son could look at you and go, "Oh, Dan's in bad form," he doesn't have to think, right, what do I do to fix this? He just goes, "Where's the tinfoil?" And vice versa, I imagine you do it just as often whenever the kids are kicking off or whatever, you just wrapping yourself in tinfoil.
If they hear tinfoil rustling in the kitchen upstairs, you will hear them literally go, "Oh no!" because they know the game's on. They know the game's on from a story up. It's like, well, we've got to be ready. He's coming. But that's it's just a silly thing. And there's so many silly things. I've written albums worth of songs about my kids, which are completely random. It's just I think it's an important thing to do as an adult, because if all you do is grind yourself down into, hey, we all fall into that trap. We all fall into that trap that we get tied up with work and what have you. But it's been a big thing for me to try and enjoy life, try and enjoy moments, because I'm terrible for just letting them race by. I'm in the moment and then I'm on to the next thing, but sometimes it's just important to sort of savor.
What is it, do you think, that changed that for you, that you went from just letting moments race by to think to yourself, like, it's time to settle and enjoy the moments? And is there anything that happened, or did you just do it?
You know, the last 4 years have been crazy because I've been doing the radio. We obviously had another kid, and I've still been full-time stand-up, as I got to be. And I just found that when you find yourself working 7 days a week, and you know that from, you know, doing magic and all the other things, you're never really off. Yeah. And you're always kind of shifting from one thing to another. And I just found, particularly when I turned 40, and I think it was a big thing, and it wasn't the number 40. It was the fact that nothing really happened for my 40th birthday, and it was my fault, because no one can really plan for me, because I'll be busy doing this, I'll be busy doing that. What are you doing the next weekend? What are you doing? Oh, all right, well, what about that weekend? And I would have something on. And I realized that, all right, so I'm actually doing other people out of that experience. I'm not savoring the time to enjoy it. I've got little kids now. I'm not living in the moment, and I think that's really important. Is actually living in the moment. Don't sit there worrying so much about what's gonna happen. Like, enjoy the moment now, because tomorrow's not set. You know, tomorrow's not set. You can't do anything about the past. You can worry, I guess you can worry about it a little bit, but you can't let it dwell on you. And it kind of came about that. It's like, it'd be better to enjoy the moments, because I mean, my son's 7 now. The other one's just turned 4. We've got an 8-month-old in the house, and it's like, fuck, I don't want to be turning around one day driving my son to his girlfriend's house and going, oh shit, where did all that time go? Where did all that thing go? You know? So and just missing the moments in life. I don't want to miss them. So, and I'm at that age now where it's like, you should be thinking about stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I still go at a fair pelt, but if something cool comes along, I like to go, I'm going to enjoy this. Yeah. Like I'm gonna enjoy this moment and really savor it. And there'd been a couple of, like, selfishly talking about it from gigs and what have you. There'd been a couple of things, like, I always remember, barely remember it. I did the first time ICW were at the Hydro, and there was 6,000 fans there. 6,000 fans there. What a great time. What a long night, long, hard night. But instead of going out and having a beer afterwards, I went home because I was on the radio the next morning. I didn't take the radio off. I didn't do anything like that because I'd gone from this big thing and I was already on to the next one.
Yeah.
Like it just, that happened, away we go. And it struck me as stupid, like, why didn't I take the morning off? It wouldn't have been a big deal. Is it just the sheer fear of maybe if I don't keep moving that I'll just, disappear? It's like, it's going to come to us all one day. So there's no point in worrying about it. But it was stuff like that. And then supported Tim Mitchin, I remember. That was a big gig. 5,000 people. I'm told that was amazing. I'm told it was amazing. But I barely remember it. I just didn't take time to savor it. I think I finished my set and I went running back to somewhere else to meet someone. Why did I not take the time to do that? That was just part of my makeup. And I think to stop and learn from experiences and savor them is only going to make me better, a better person, a better performer, a better, maybe even better at managing my time. Do you know, it's and maybe less of a grumpy twat. Maybe.
I think it comes from, like, I know from experience whenever I first started doing performances, because you have nothing set in stone, you like, for all you know, the person could cancel, the venue could cancel, you could get put off the radio, anything could happen. So my head was always about the next one, right? This one's definitely happening in a minute. I do it and I'm 100% there when I do it. And then once I'm like, right, plan the next gig, what's next? And like, I've seen myself chatting to people after a gig, thinking about what I could do slightly better for the next one to improve that. And then later on, someone will say, oh, what are we chatting to them about? And I'll be like, I don't know.
No idea.
I don't know what they're talking about. So I think I could come from there as well, because some of the experiences you have are like, as a wrestling fanboy, whenever we started talking about the wrestlers you toured with, I was like, that was the dream when you were younger, to not to meet the wrestlers, but you actually. We talked about that a wee bit since that randomly came into my head, but you've toured with some old school wrestlers that is like, did you grow up as a wrestling fan your whole life, or?
Oh God, yeah. I'm old enough to remember wrestling when it was still on ITV.
Pat McMahon.
Exactly. I remember when ITV though. I remember when like WWF and WCW started coming to these shows, and I just fell in love with that American. And I'm a nerd about wrestling. I watch stuff from Japan. God, fucking watched myself watching professional wrestling from Brazil the other day. What the fuck's wrong with me? I really don't. I mean, I can't talk to anybody about this. What is wrong with me? And YouTube is the biggest customer wrestling fan could ever have, because then you're just, way down what's this? Yeah. There was a second version of the WCW hardcore belt from 1997. I must go and investigate. What the hell? I was really lucky. I'm a wrestling fan all my life, and still am to this day, which is crazy. But as I actually quite enjoyed lockdown, just kind of being a fan, and enjoying AEW and WWE, and just I've quite enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong, there's still ICW things ongoing, but I'm still a wrestling fan. I always will be.
What's your favorite wrestling match from the old days?
Oh God, man, there's so many. That's such a hard question.
Mine, just to make it easier, mine's is definitely WrestleMania 6, Hogan and Warrior.
See, that's one that did spring to mind.
I love
it. I think, and you've got to watch the whole show, I think.
Yeah.
You see Hogan versus Andre. It's not that great a match, but fuck me, that buzz of Americana just going around the place, and the crowd, they're just like going, Andre's gonna kill him! Andre's gonna kill him! Just like, come on, Hulk, you've got to do something. I love that. Wow. I mean, I could pick so many. Stone Cold versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13, I think it was. That's an amazing match. Okay, I could keep going. I could bore you, but
I was going to name some obscure Brazilian match. Pablo versus somebody.
For the record, they were utter crap. For the record, they were utter crap. But they'll only get better.
Is it still the same? Like, one of the things I loved about wrestling back in the day as well was the promos. I loved watching just the complete madness, like Macho Man. Like, when you think about it, Macho Man did this cool turn, but when you really look at it, he's just doing a Columbo. Every time, like, he just does a wee like Columbo turn back into the mic and does a rant at it. So
I love those times, man, because they were like real showmen. They were, real crazy, wild showmen. The carnival, but I love a good promo that extends a storyline, and oh my god, they're thinking 4 weeks ahead. Little things like that. There's a whole art to the storytelling that I love almost as much as actually watching them ring. But the stories they tell in the ring and with the promos, don't get me wrong, ain't all good.
yeah, yeah.
It ain't all good, but that's an aspect of it I really, really love. I do love a good promo. I love a bad promo as well. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, they're far better, yeah.
If you ever get a chance, look up Jeff Farmer. It's the worst fucking promo in the world.
There's a guy that keeps talking about how he's going to come over the guy, come over you and like a whatever, and just like real brutal. But it doesn't seem like he knows what he's talking about. And you're like, what are you on about here?
Yeah, he's clearly he clearly means come as in like beat him up, but he keeps saying the word come, and he's like, somewhere there's someone with a headset going, can he just stop saying the word come? Can someone hold up a sign or something?
Yeah.
Stop saying come. People think it's jizz.
Yeah, I love the old school. Who have you toured with? I know we've talked personally about it, but who
I've got to tour with people, but I've got to interview people and I've got to work with them as well, even in ICW. So in terms of touring and spoken word things, I've got to work with DDP, Diamond Dallas Page, Mick Foley, Roddy Piper, William Regal. Did a bit of stuff with Batista, which was fun. Who am I missing? And I've got to sit down and interview the likes of the Godfather, which was fascinating. Fascinating guy, man. Really fascinating.
Shango as well.
He was Papa Shango as well, yeah. Really fascinating dude. Mr. Anderson, I got to sit down and have a chat with him. He was an interesting guy as well. Really interesting guy. He's one of those. I don't think we're pals. We're pals on Facebook, which is odd. When you see a friend request coming in from Mr. Anderson, what? And Rhino as well. So a bunch of guys, and then there's the ones that have come into ICW. Getting a chance to do a bit of work with Kurt Angle, which was nice. Well, talking to Kurt Angle about his match is quite cool. Because 5 minutes chatting to Kurt Angle about what he's thinking, and you're like, oh my god, that is fucking amazing. And a bunch of other guys. So yeah, we've been really lucky.
I thought it was funny, like whenever we talked the last time, we talked about touring with Roddy Piper, and just when you're saying about like getting a friend request and stuff, and you're saying they just do become your buddies, and you end up. I remember you told me about going for dinner at some like fancy house with him and.
Yes, yeah, it's well, that was the weird thing, like, because I think I met Rod a couple of days into his tour. Maybe it was only the day. It was the first day. I can't. Do you know what? I don't even remember where I'd been, but I knew that I was fucking tired. That's all I can remember. I don't know where I'd been the night before. I think I'd been in like Inverness or somewhere crazy the night before. And I met him, and to him I was just an act, and I think I was doing a lot of the driving, which I was happy to do. I'm a terrible passenger in a car. See, if I'm not driving, or if you can say I can sit in the back and go to sleep, then that's fine. And I can take my pillow and that's fine. But if I'm not doing that, then fuck's sake, put me behind the wheel, because I am a terrible passenger. I'm awful. But I met him there, and we became pals over a couple. I think when he established that I wasn't a complete dick, which, in all fairness, when someone looks at me, they might be like, "What the fuck's going on with this asshole?" And we became pals. It was nice to talk comedy with him. Do you know what I mean? It was nice because he was really. It's a real shame, and if there's any wrestling fans that are ever interested, I know he did stuff at the Comedy Store in LA. I would have loved for you to have seen his show because it was funny. And he started getting really, really funny and really, really sharp, and it's a real bloody shame. I would love it if there was a video out there somewhere, because it'd be worth seeing. But we became pals, and I remember when we toured over, I think I know we were near Dublin, right? I know we were near Dublin, but I think this happened on the way to Cork when he goes, I need to meet, go and meet a friend of mine that's a Barron. It's like, what? It's just not a phrase you hear people say very often. A Barron? What? And I started, it sounded daft, but I started getting really protective of him. I remember going, what does this Barron want, Rod? he wants to make a film with me in it. Well, while you're here. No. Well, does he have experience making? I literally see it, and we went to this big mansion in the middle of bloody nowhere, and his mum was a former architect, and I miss Brazil. There's Brazil coming back, and there was all these pictures on the wall of his ancestors. Like one was like a painter, one was an architect, and one was like, and they all looked like him. And you're in this huge house. Now they were clearly the type of people that, you know, I've got to track them down. I've got to find out who they are. They're clearly the type of people that had lots of assets but not a lot of money. Like I remember them actually saying stuff like, "Oh, we need to open it to the public every now and then, so we've got some money." And you're like, "What the fuck does that even mean?" Like in the middle of this whole thing, I am having a breakdown, especially when Miss Brazil, the Baron's mum, goes, "Oh, you seem very interested. Do you want to see the museum we've built to his dad's art in the mansion?" It's like, all right, who comes to see that? Do the public come and see that when you open up? Oh, no. So there's a museum in the mansion, but nobody sees it apart from you guys. That's right. Look, we got programs printed. I'm like, the fuck is going on? So I'm sitting at this table eating wheaten bread, which is like my mum made. It was really nice, and what appeared to be little lasagna. I'm not entirely sure. And I'm eating, and I look up, and across from me is a former Miss Brazil, a Irish Baron. Although he wasn't very Irish, we won't get into all that. And Roddy Piper. And I just remember going, what the fuck is going on? We're talking before we came on about savouring moments, and, you know, we were talking about savouring. That was, I remember going like, how did I get in this? I was going to let this go. Like, I was too busy eating my dinner. It's like, oh my God. So, yeah, that was such a weird experience. I thought we killed him. That was the other worry. And when we were in Manchester, he wouldn't answer his door. And I remember actually saying to Chris Brooker, who organised the tour and was the director of the tour, and actually saying, I can't go back to Scotland if I've gone on tour with Roddy Piper and he's died. Like, I don't believe I can go back to Scotland. I don't think I'll be welcome. I think folk will come after my house. I was making plans for my wife to move to Manchester, but luckily he then opened, like, and this was like in maybe like, I don't know, 2 minutes. All these thoughts went through my head, and then he opened the door, and I could have hugged him. I literally kind of, oh Jesus Christ! But he was in his boxer shorts, and I didn't want to make it weird.
It would be quite strange. And then DDP. A lot of people who aren't wrestlers are going to know who DDP is now because it was yoga. You use yoga as well. You actually practice the yoga.
I do. I've been doing DDP for about 5 years. I love it. I absolutely love it. I got into it because it was something that, as a wrestling fan, you hear about DDP using this to like rebuild his back and what have you, and you go, well, that's going to be good. It's quite good for weight loss. And when you get into, I like the idea that it helped with weight loss and strengthening, and there was elements about it. It's when I don't do any of these things. I go to the gym, I do cardio, I lift weights, and then I go home. So there's a whole big bit that I'm missing, and I love it, man. I absolutely love it. A buddy of mine's is the only Scottish DDP yoga instructor, so I hook up with him a lot, and it's great. It's technology is amazing. There's an app on my phone now that tracks all my workouts, and every now and then I'll get a wee message from DDP going, "You're doing great, cheers, mate." And you know, when you find yourself buying yoga blocks and Bluetooth monitors and the toes and the slippers with the toes, the whole thing out, you go, things have taken a turn. They are amazing.
I watched a few different things, different old school wrestlers talking about how DDP saved them, like Chris Jericho, and I think Shawn Michaels was talking about it as well. At DDP, just doing the yoga with them, with DDP's yoga, sort of, and the Jake the Snake thing as well. What was it called? The documentary about him.
I think the resurrection of Jake the Snake.
Yes, whatever. You watch it again. Just old, like I love all the old school stuff, except the bit where was it Razor Ramon landed in a wheelchair.
Yeah, it's a fantastic documentary.
Yeah,
But that's just like the fact that wrestling. I mean, the current WWE World Heavyweight Champion Drew McIntyre, he uses it as well. A lot of them
yeah.
do. A lot of them do the training, and I think he used to at least go to the Performance Center in Orlando. I don't think he does now because of his association with the AEW for the moment. But I'm sure that'll change. I'm sure they'll work everything out. When Vince needs it, when Vince McMahon needs some DDP yoga, he'll get boom straight on it.
Yeah. You would imagine that Vince would definitely need it. The amount of madness he's done over his career and the
Bloody hell! I saw a video of him from that jump that Rob Gronkowski, whoever he's Rob bloody was the guy from WrestleMania when he had to take like a 25-foot dive.
yeah.
It's a video online if you ever want to check it out. That's a 76-year-old billionaire just goes, oh no, this is how you do it. And he just does it in front of everybody, just snaps it off in his suit, not even blinking an eye, and you're like, holy crap. And he did the, if you remember, you might not remember this, but it's an iconic image from his career. Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 12, did the zip line in.
Yeah.
Vince did it first. To show him it worked, Vince did it. No, he didn't get a stunt man, didn't get another one. Vince did it. So yeah. I got to admit, as much as I admire what he's done for pro wrestling and what he's done for pop culture, I fucking admire that. It's they must be somewhere. There must be accountants and lawyers losing their fucking mind every time Vince McMahon leaves the house.
You think they would post that? Because whenever you think about Vince doing stuff, the thing that comes to mind the most is remember when he ran into the ring and dived and hit both his thighs, like blew out both his quads on the way in, and had to like do it all sitting at the bottom on his ass. So
what a fucking badass! Like, what? Like that's like one of the worst tears you can do, and he did it twice.
Yeah,
he did it twice.
And continued on, just hammered on.
Oh bloody hell! Oh, that gives me the that gives me the book just thinking about it. Jesus, like oh god. Well, you would think with that mad power walk he does that he'd have like just the strongest quads in the world. God, man. I forgot. I blocked that from my mind. I had blocked that from my mind. Settle down.
It's back in.
Settle down, Mr. McMahon, sir, if you don't mind.
Where were we? Oh, so we got again because I love wrestling. Again, I don't watch a lot of it now, but I just loved all the old school. I love seeing old wrestlers appear. Like, oh, he just appeared. I'm just gonna stare at the screen. Looking.
I don't know what it is.
Looking.
I've got my intercontinental belt around somewhere. Like it's an old school intercontinental belt. I don't know. Fuck, I think I'll pack that away. Oh no! Hang on. Check this motherfucker out. Look at that.
That is awesome. How did you get that?
I got it for my 30th birthday. Didn't get one for my 40th. I just noticed that. I didn't get like.
I was just thinking that too. Yeah.
I wanted the Eagle belt. The Eagle belt. Do you know what I mean? This was the belt. This was the belt Warrior and Macho Man and Bret Hart and Mr. This is a fucking intercontinental belt. My pride and joy. It's my absolute pride and joy. I remember at one point I started taking it to wrestling shows, and every time you would wait, to stand-up gigs, I've got material about being a wrestling fan, and whenever I'd bring it out, you would inevitably there'd be a portion of them that would go wrestling, but they'd always at least be a portion that would be like respect, and then inevitably a queue of guys afterwards going, "Can I try the belt on?"
Yeah,
it's like, of course you can, mate.
I would never take it off.
I'll bring it across next time I come over. I'll bring it. Yes. I'll bring it. We can all have a go.
That'd be great. How did we get up? Oh, I was going to ask you about your creativity because you live such an exciting life. Like, where did your creativity stem from? Like, I remember one part of your show you did was the tattoo part. We talked about all your different tattoos, and you asked people about their tattoos because I love a tattoo story as well because all mine have meaning. And then anytime I had talked about mine and other people's in the past, it was very serious conversations I would have, like this meant this and this is why this. And then I saw your routine. I was like, all right, they can like it can be a bit lighter, like with it. So where do you think your creativity is
Where is it born from? Do you know? It's hard to tell. I've always been relatively creative minded in terms of a performer. It's hard to tell. Like, I'd always been, when I was growing up, I was always into writing, not necessarily good writing, but writing and art. So it always come from that place. But it wasn't until like late in like secondary school I showed any interest in performing. And even then I was kind of like, well, it's not really, is that something I'm meant to do? Or is that something that, you know, people much better looking or from a higher class or something are meant to do? And I enjoyed it. I literally enjoyed it. So in terms of where, and even now, I've got ADHD, so there's not much I can really do about it. But in terms of, there is always a drive to create something, to do something. That might not necessarily be a good thing, because the number of times I say I'll have 20 ideas, I know for a fact I probably don't have time to do any of them, but I can have 20. I've got a phone here full of notes, and I say yes to everything, so I can't really help myself. But in terms of creativity, I think there's an element of fulfillment, an element of challenge, and an element of fear. And all those are good things. To be scared of something, I think is very healthy. Like you're saying, standing up in front of a room of people to go, I'm going to do a show about tattoos, and I'm hopefully going to make it light in it. And I don't know what these people are going to throw at me. Yeah. I have no idea what these people are going to throw at me. All I can hope about is make it enough that there's a rapport and we can have some fun with it. So, and I remember having the name for that show before I took it to the Fringe, and not really the show. You know, it's like, well, a show and a poster and they're all good to go. And then, what's that, mate?
What was the name of it?
It was called Show Me Your Tattoo. It was kind of, I was Ron sealing that bad boy. Boof. Show me your tattoo. But the idea was that it was going to be conversational. People would know about that before they came in, you know. But it was funny because I think people had seen people like Dave Gorman and what have you. And originally the show that I was writing was really static and like, oh, I'm going to do material like this and I'm going to do material like that. I'm going to do material like that. And then literally about a month out from the Fringe, I went, I'm going to throw all this out because I'm not enjoying this. And what I want the show to be is about me talking to people and making it more fun and making it more casual. So literally 6 weeks out from the Fringe, I completely threw it out and started again. And even that, you've got to have the confidence to go, nah. I mean, I'm awful for that. I mean, anyone that's worked in the pantos for the last couple of years will tell you there's nothing worse than 4 weeks before the panto me going, this scene's shite. We need to read it. You wrote it. Yep, I know, but I've written it again. You know, I guess I just like to keep things like that. I like to keep them moving and improving. I think that's where it comes from. There's an innate desire to create that goes along with stand-up, but it's kind of its own vein. So, yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing or if I have the time. Maybe I'm chasing that one good idea. Maybe I'm chasing my Mona Lisa or something. I'll have that one thing and go, fucking nailed it. Or, you know, the fucking Apple iPhone, maybe do that one thing and I'll go, brilliant. I wish somebody would turn around and tell me that. I wish somebody would turn around and go, just do stand up, or see that podcast idea that you came up with, just do that. That's going to be a big hit. And everything else will branch off that. But
I think it's why you've evolved so much and got to where you are and things, because you're always chasing. The problem I've found with clients and people that I know in the industry, and like, you meet comedians and stuff through work, and then you meet them about a year later at a show, and you're like, how are you getting on? Sort of give that up. Wasn't for me. Whereas you're the same as me. You're always looking, right, I've done that. That's good. What can I improve on? So you're always evolving, always improving it in all aspects. That's why people can name their tattoo and you're able to like make light of it, but not in a like, nobody went away from that show thinking he said my tattoo was shite and it's not shite.
Yeah.
Like you made light of it and it was funny and they felt part of the show.
Yeah.
And
it's funny because it's on its own as well. It's almost a mechanism just to have a conversation. I will tell you about me. Now, I want you to tell me about you. And if it's, it could be a tattoo, it could be a loving tribute or something like that. I can ask them, with my friend Barron, he passed away last year as my best mate. What's your what's the silliest thing Darren ever did that made you laugh? And immediately you see people go, oh, well, we went on a stag night to Minsk and he ended up fighting a bear. You know, you literally, and then we start talking about Darren and we start talking about the bear and other people will go, oh, my stag night. And it just becomes something different and we're sharing, you know, and I think that's what I like about that. And the idea of, I don't know so much if chasing, but the idea of always wanting to do things. Do you know there was a quote from Walt Disney of all people who said one of his biggest fears was running out of time to do all the things he wanted. Like he never got to do, like, I think Epcot, like at Disneyland, was like his fucking dream, or maybe the one in Orlando, the Magic Kingdom in Orlando was like his thing. Couldn't wait to do it and didn't make it. He didn't make it. All the planning, I don't think he saw the opening day. And I think there's an element of that. It's like just an element of satisfaction as we go. That'd be nice. I mean, I'd love it if the days were 40 hours. Sleep is an annoyance. Sleep is really fucking annoying. Like even last night when I think I got like 3 hours sleep. But I think as well, because I want to continue working in the creative industries, and I genuinely do, even during these ridiculous times where we don't know what's going to be happening. I'm on the radio. I've got a job in the creative industries, whatever way folk look at it. It might just be a little bit of gentle banter in the mornings and trying to make people smile. But I wouldn't have got that if I hadn't have done a podcast. You know, I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have taken a corporate gig for Bauer, who are the people that own the station that I work for. So all these things are connected, you know, and it's, you never know what the next challenge is. You never know what the next challenge is. You just got to be ready to go, yes, or oh, I could make a mess of that. Oh, what a story.
Yeah, that's what, like the yes thing, you said that's twice you've talked about that. So I'm the same. I'll say yes to everything and then like work it out later. I remember the first time I ever started teaching courses on body language and observation and memory skills. It was over the phone, and the guy sitting beside me was watching me on the phone, agreed to one, yeah, I've got a course designed to that, and yeah, no, I teach a lot of body language. And then I hung up the phone and he was like, do you do any of that? And I was like, no, I know how to teach it. I've taught it one-to-one. I've never taught it in a group, but I'll be able to do it. And he was like, when does the course start? And I was like, tomorrow. So I got 2 hours to design a course and teach it. And I ended up working for that company for 2 years off the back of that. So there you go. I think because we're open to yes, and you've talked about fear as well. People are afraid of looking stupid or afraid of failure. So your mind works kind of the same as mine. Yes, I'll either do this, be awesome and achieve it, or it will completely blow up in my face, but it will be an awesome story to be able to tell. Like if people don't have stories, I think it's because they don't try stuff. Like best stories here are failure.
Oh, I think I've said this before. I couldn't complain if everything finished like what I'm doing. I couldn't complain. I had one hell of a run. Do you know what I mean? I've got to do some fucking amazing things. I could write a book if I could remember half of them. But you've got to be careful because you can get yourself into traps. Like, I mean, I've got 3 kids now, so I know that. Like here's an example. I'd become frustrated with my career and things that were going on at the start of the year. Like, why is that guy getting that, and why is that not happening, and why don't blah 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 blah. And then I realized that one big thing you need to do was a silly thing because I'd chased money or making sure the bills were paid and doing X, Y, and Z, and I chased money the last 4 Augusts. I hadn't been at the Fringe doing a full run. And I realized that, well, that's stupid because, like, that's the Super Bowl of where comedians and performers are meant to go. So all my frustration, why is that guy not getting, because I'm not there. Yeah. And the only person that wasn't taking me there was me. Nobody's stopping me from going. You might go, oh, what about money and what have you? Well, other people seem to manage. Why would I not manage? I'll work twice as hard as everyone else, you know, but I should be at the Fringe. And it's interesting the traps you get yourself into, which you can do. I mean, I'm sure you found yourself going, I've been so busy working this. Oh, fuck. Why? I missed that. Why did I miss that? Because I was so busy worrying about X, Y, and Z. And I'm not saying that family and what have they're important. They're the reason that I'll go out that door. You know, I go out that door so I can come back. You know, and that's the other reason I want to continue working in the creative industries. I want to be there, you know, Saturdays and weddings and be at home to talk my kids in, because there's plenty of times I'm not. But I think it's just it was interesting making that adjustment mentally and going, oh fuck. One of the biggest problems with my career, and it's a horrible thing to have to finally admit after 15 years in, it's like, oh my God, it's me. I'm the fucking problem. Because somewhere that little imposter syndrome, or I don't know what it is, all the things, and it's the reason I bring that up, because I think you constantly do have to evolve. I think after a few years of just working really hard, I got over myself. Maybe it was lockdown that did it. I have no idea, but I got over myself. I should be at the Fringe. Well, I was going to the Fringe this year, and so I can at least give myself a pat on the back for that. Like, I was fucking going. I'd got my place. Like, it was all sorted. But it's interesting that sometimes I think it is important just to take a little look. And it's hard to do, man. It's hard to do when you're like, oh God, I've got a car payment, I've got a loan, I've got a mortgage, you know, blah, 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 blah. But and it can be a job for you working in creative arts, but it's also like fucking enjoy it. It's really important to enjoy it, and that's why when everything comes back, man, I'm going to be grinning like a Cheshire cat. Folk are going to be so fucking sick of me. It's unbelievable.
I think it's important to, like, I did that last October.
Right.
I realized that I wasn't overly happy in what I was doing. I was like, I need to just check this out. So I sat down and checked, and I ended up like wiping out all my social media. I deleted everything, got rid of it, everything except the podcast. I had been doing a daily podcast for a year.
Yeah.
That was that was a wee goal, and I always try to, if I can, I will succeed at my goal. So I was like, I'll delete everything, I'll keep doing the podcast. But people were asking me all, like, I got asked 8 times did I have a mental breakdown because I went off Facebook and Instagram and deleted everything. And I was like, no, I'm having a mental clear out. I'm not happy doing what I'm doing. I want to do something different. So I was the same boat as you. What was holding me back was me. So even if you think about the first time, we did a podcast a long time ago when I was first doing podcasts, but when I was just solely being the Prove It guy, I was very professional. I worked with a lot of anxiety and depression and everything, so I would never curse. I wouldn't really talk about the fact that I loved wrestling or fighting or any of that sort of stuff. I would never have had a room full of weapons behind me.
Well, that's the thing I find so fascinating about this, because Liam, I don't remember you mentioning you enjoying wrestling. I remember you mentioning Diamond Dallas Page.
Yeah.
But I didn't know all the other stuff. That's just
like, I didn't Dallas Page because it made sense, because he was, everybody knew that video of the part.
The Arthur one, yeah.
So it fitted with the persona that I had sort of created. Like, you had seen me on stage. I never cursed on stage. I never because of the way I had set myself up. It's why I had to delete everything. I was like, look, I can't work with those sort of clients when part of me is still hidden amongst.
Yeah.
We wrestled. Whenever we were younger, me and my brother and our friend Mingsy used to wrestle daily. Like, when we bought a new carpet, say for example, that was basically considered mats. She'd be like, I was light, my brother could lift me, and like I remember one day we didn't do pinning because we were too stubborn. So if you did a 1, 2, 3, you'd always be like, my shoulder was up, fuck off. So we didn't play nice. So you either tapped out or cried. That's how you lost. And I remember Sean putting me in a Boston Crab and like bending me in half, and I just refused to cry, refused to tap, refused everything, and just kept telling them to fuck off. And then Mingsy put me in a camel clutch at the same time.
Oh fuck!
And I know exactly. Whenever I tell this story to people doing the wrestling, they're like, "Okay, yeah,
that's too much. That's too much. That's too much."
Yeah, but I was just like, no. just refused completely until I got like a proper. I thought it was going to break, so I had to give up eventually. But we always did it. Like I think it's why I was good at martial arts. We wrestled for real. We didn't understand how to throw a punch, take a punch. We just battered each other, and then went on. So, and like I grew up in it. Like I was going to wear my Hulk Hogan T-shirt for this interview because I knew wrestling, but I couldn't find it. But I grew up all that, so I fully get what you're saying about you can be the one that holds you back. And now I know, like I always got really good results with my clients, and it took me to some incredible places. But now the people I work with have a better breakthrough because I think they can sense when you're people can sense when you're holding back a bit. Especially when I was on stage, I found it wild hard on stage not to just rip into people whenever they were like, especially as a magician, when you take someone on stage, a lot of the time they want to fuck you over. And as a comedian, you can just ruin them with a statement. Whereas I was supposed to be all Shazam, like, all right, guys, stop calling me a wanker, just pick a card there, please. So, do you think now moving on in the future with lockdown happening, like you're saying that you're going to go like a Cheshire cat, do you think you'll be more inclined to create ideas and run with them, even though you've already said that your brain's already going?
I think I am aware that I'm trying to be careful. Like I've got a list of ideas and I'm going like, right. Which one of these can you actually do and do well? Why not have 1,000 different ideas about this one thing, as opposed to have 1,000 ideas about different things? I mean, I'm terrible for like starting something and go, oh fuck, I should have done that. Oh, I should have called it that. Oh fuck, I've had a much better idea. So I hope so. Like I've even talked about doing stuff with my wife as well, which would be interesting. Although I don't know if she would put in the same. I'm fucking nightmare to work with as well. And like, if you are not as much committed as me and will not be able to do X, Y, and Z, then fucking what's the point? And these things that I'm bad at as well. Like I'm terrible at marketing and what have you. But I think I am going to try and be a little more careful, a little more honest. A little more like myself. There's been lots of things that have happened during lockdown mentally, I think, which is good. I think people have had goods and bad points during this thing. I mean, I've had some bad points recently, but they really made me think about myself. They really made me think about, I don't like using terms like legacy, but it's like, what do I want to do? Like, why am I bothered about what other people think? Why literally does that bother me? It hasn't bothered me before. When did it start bothering me? And what am I bothered that they think? Well, that guy's a dick. Well, you don't know me. Shut up.
Yeah.
Next. No, the guy you've seen on stage you think is a dick. The guy you listen to on the radio you might think is a dick. But you don't know me, so why should I care?
Yeah.
Why should I care? And all I'm concerned about is like entertaining people. Making sure that if they come and see something or they're involved with something that I've done, that they saw a value in it to themselves. That was 30 minutes. That was funny. I enjoyed that. Look forward to the next episode. I don't want to make millions. I don't want to be filling fucking stadiums. I never have. I would like a small group of people that could camp in the back of my house. And that's all. I think, yeah. And like even doing shows next year, it's funny because I was meant to do one at the Glasgow Comedy Festival called Happy Goth. And at one point I was going to make that a brand. That was going to be like a podcast and all that type of thing. But I've realized during lockdown, even some of the stuff that's happened, it would influence what I talk about or what I would like to write about.
Yeah.
Like some of the silly and ridiculous stuff that I've even done on videos in lockdown. And, you know, I've written that went, you know, I would actually quite like to talk about that because like my dad passed away about a month ago. And it made me think about, well, first I was like, I was the adult. I was the on the ground adult, and that hadn't happened in a long time.
Yeah.
Like my one brother's in New Zealand, stuck there, can't come home. The other one's in London. His wife's just had back surgery. I had to do everything. I had to do literally everything. I was the adult in that situation, and even thinking about that when my dad passing, it made me think about how he'd lived his life in his later years and how I would want to live my life, and even aspects of like even just saying to, it sounds silly, but even say to someone the other day, it was like, well, you know, when I get to the point where I'm just beyond, just buy me antlers and wheel me out into a forest and let a hunter take care of me because I'm gone. What do they care? And they were horrified. They were horrified. It was like, well, I won't know what's happening. Why should I care? I don't want a grandson. Do you want to see the ducks, Uncle? You know, do you want to see the ducks, Grandpa Billy? No, don't. I fucking hate ducks. Don't take me to the fucking ducks. You know, I'd say, and even that, which some people might consider horrific, is kind of something I want to talk about now. So it's
you
all good.
You want to be Bambi's mum, if you're saying you want to be ruled out to be Bambi's mum.
Yeah, listen, Bambi would be ideal for me because my mum was shot by a hunter and she was a stripper. But whatever, yeah, stuff like that. So it's evolving in a very direct way. I know so many comedians that are so driven. Like I've got my 5-year plan, and I'm doing this, and I'm doing that, and I'm doing this, and you know something. Hats off to them. I wish I had your drive. I wish you could look at what I do and go, "Oh, this is how you do that," and you'll be able to do X. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've also kind of accepted as like, well, that's not how I do things.
Yeah.
I wish I could have the Joe Rogan idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'll just do a podcast about fucking, I don't know. I'll do a podcast about trainers, and it'll become the biggest podcast in the world, and everyone can, and I can do that, and people that see that will come and see me do stand up. That would be great, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Or it could. I don't know. It could happen at some point.
It kind of sounds like your mind works like a spider diagram, but instead of a spider diagram that has a central point, it just keeps spidering out. Like you adds a new spider, and that's why. But you enjoy what you do, so I think that's important. Like that's, if you didn't enjoy it, then I would be sitting here saying you need to do something about this. But you actually enjoy. Like I'm pretty good at structuring. I know this will lead to here, but even like this podcast, the idea behind this podcast was, first of all, because I talk about a lot of my mentors and the people that I meet, I thought it would be better just to have a conversation and be able to say, remember I talked about a friend of mine that's worked with all the wrestlers. Like I've used you as an example. I don't know if we've talked about this, but I've worked with like young teenagers and stuff, like different. I worked with the Northern Ireland homeless, and I worked with just a few wee kids that would be kind of lost. And if they bring up wrestling, I'll talk to them and be like, I have a mate Billy who, and a few times they're like, Billy Kirkwood? And I'm like, I do you know him? And it's actually helped me bridge the gap between he's just some bald guy who's going to try to tell me my life shit and I need to fix it, till he actually knows about wrestling and knows wrestling people and like has met a few different ones and stuff. So that was the point of my podcast for me, was to go, remember that guy I was telling you about? Here's a podcast of me having a chat with him and how he got where he is and stuff. So that, like, I came from nothing really, so people can see like no qualifications, no skills, no sports skills, nothing. You can go, well, how do you know all these like masters of their craft? And like, the fact that you're saying yes, like we say yes to everything.
It's one of those things. I think it's crazy. I think of some people that I know who I consider friends. Like I know Mark. It's the weird, most surreal thing. I know Mark Miller, who wrote likes of Kick-Ass, the comic book, and Wanted and Supercrooked and The Boys, which is now on Amazon and is fucking turned the place up.
Awesome so far.
What's that?
Everything he has done has been awesome. Like,
well, yeah, well, and I met him because he saw me at the Stand Comedy Club in Glasgow, and I don't, how the fuck did we meet? Like, I wonder how we came into contact with each other. But like, I did some like stuff for him. He did this thing he's on Kapow, which was like I remember filming a tester trailer for him for a film. Well, I knew he wasn't, like, I knew they weren't going to use me in the fucking film. but even at that, I thought it was cool, and he became a pal. He became a genuine pal who I've asked the advice of a couple of times. He's helped my wife with comic book stuff because she obviously graphic novels and comic books is a great way to branch with kids, particularly in this day and age, because they're talking about everything now. And I think he started coming to see me do improv at the Stand in Glasgow. Would come regularly with a group of people. In fact, I remember he introduced me to the director of one of my favorite movies I'd ever met, and I was like, "Are you fucking shitting me?" I was at a party at his house, and he goes, this is such and such, and this guy goes, "Hi, I'm Joe," and I go, "Lovely to meet you, Joe." And I'm standing there listening to them for about 10 minutes, and they keep mentioning names. They at one point mentioned Brad and Angelina, and I did not make the connection. I did not make the connection until I was finally talking about Brad Pitt. What the fuck? And then finally Joe says, "Oh, well, we're working on this. It's going to be great. It's got Liam Neeson in it, and Rampage Jackson is going to be BA. He's going to do a great job." And it's like, "All right, what's that?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm directing the A-Team movie." And I was like, "Fuck me, you're Joe Carnahan, you directed Narc." Like, I fucking love Narc. And it just came out, but that's how I live in a situation. I know a person, I've met a person, I don't really, it's nice to get to know them. And that was fucking amazing, because then he started asking me questions about stand-up. Like, what do you do when it goes wrong? It's like, well, when you start out, it's the worst thing in the world. But after a while, see, when like a gig goes really bad, you kind of start reveling in it a wee bit. that inevitably kind of turns it round. But yeah, it is weird. It is weird, the people you meet. In fact, Mark's helping us out with as part of this. We're trying to save Scottish comedy and save UK comedy and save Irish comedy. And we're writing to all these boards, and he put his name to the letter, and very much appreciated, because he loves comedy. He's a big comedy fan. He's friends with Daniel Sloss. Wouldn't surprise me if he knew Mickey Bartlett and Colin. Wouldn't surprise me at all.
No. I think the way you meet people is because you are who you are. You're Popeye. I say that a lot to people I talk to, because you are, like, whenever you, like you said, the person that you're on stage is different from who you are, but really they're all components of you. And when you meet, you're such a genuine person to meet up and talk with. Like, how we got talking properly was because you had said your back was sore, and I was like, well, I've been doing kinesiology for 14 years. I could probably help in some way. Whereas if there's not many people I would meet on a first time ever meet them and then offer something like that, because
I think it was literally the next day as well. You had me on the bed in your spare room. Before my flight, my wife fell asleep in the corner on the chair. Poor woman. That whole weekend in Omaha just kept that woman awake like 24/7. It must have drove her fucking nuts.
But I think that's why, like, and again, I would be the same as you. When I meet people, they're people. Like, just since you mentioned Liam Neeson, I did extras for a show, and one of the shows he was the lead in. Can't even remember what it was called. I didn't watch the movie. It looked like a terrible movie.
Oh, was it one that was filmed over there? Was it like a TV movie with James Nesbitt?
No, this was one where, like, the girl in it had cancer, and
oh fuck,
it was so grim. But we ended up chatting about the fight training that he had for taking and stuff, because everyone else talked to him as like, oh my god, whereas I was like, did you actually do fight training? There's no way a lot of them claim they did, but they didn't. So we get chatting about Krav Maga and boxing and stuff, and I'm like, you're just chatting to a person. So I'd imagine you're the same when you meet anyone as you were when you met me, or apart from whenever you fanboy, like, you're bound to fanboy. I fanboyed a wee bit when I met Mick Foley.
I fanboyed. I remember. See, the thing is, bizarrely, I'm actually quite shy. Like, so I know that'll sound silly, but there's like, if you went to me right now, if we were in a packed restaurant and you went, get on that table and get everyone's attention, I wouldn't have a fucking problem with it. Right, not a problem, and up I go. But if you went, right, like, could you go over and ask those two people over there if directions? I'd be like, fuck, are you joking? Like, that would, like, literally cripple me with fear. So a bit weird. Like, I'm not like that with everyone. Depends on the situation. If you can get me in a situation where I'm comfortable, and I think maybe I can get a read on you, like, we got to know each other, a little bit before. God, I think we'd seen each other perform by that point, and you're kind of giving up yourself, aren't you? It's like a whole weekend. But even like so the Mick Foley situation, like I remember I hadn't met Mick, and then and somebody went, right, Mick wants to talk to you because he wants you to help you out with a skit, and it was like, oh shit. Now I've got to meet Mick Foley. And all I had to talk to Mick Foley, all I could think of was like, talk about roller coasters. If the conversation dries up, talk about roller coasters. I've got roller coaster tattooed on my arms. You know, it's like, worst case, I'll talk about roller coasters. But it was quite nice because it meant I got to meet him in a professional capacity. So we had something to break the ice, you know?
Yeah.
But then I was like,
roller coasters.
Yeah, but then I was in I filmed a cameo yesterday in a Zoom movie, right? Which I filmed standing right here. But the thing is, everyone else knew each other. Everyone else knew each other, and there was about 10 people in this call. And then finally the director goes, Billy, you've not said anything. And I went, I'm dead sorry. Everyone seemed to know each other, and I didn't want to fucking interrupt. And folk kind of laughed at that. It's like, oh, I just didn't want to butt in, you know. And it's a weird condition. It's a weird condition, but if someone randomly went in that exact same situation, hey, can anyone do a really bad impression of like Robert De Niro? I'd be like, oh my God! I wouldn't think twice about it. I don't know, maybe I feel like I need to open up. I need to let people see this is it before I feel comfortable. Maybe it's like, I'm as big. And you said about the different phases. You're right. You definitely share elements of yourself as a performer. Like you definitely, like I always say, the guy on stage is more energetic. He's quicker. He's can be much more of an arsehole than I'll ever meet. He's probably got a temper that I don't have. You know, these elements of me there. And maybe as I'm getting a little older, I'm starting to share them. But he's not me. He's not me when I'm. And it's weird because I think people sometimes see as a performer, and then they go, "Oh, I met him in Tesco's. He didn't have much to say." Well, I wouldn't be walking around Tesco's cracking jokes and, hey, you know, that would drive people fucking nuts. Just imagine such a horrid thing. You'd think, what a ball bag. What an absolute ball bag.
I always think it's weird. Like, you never, like, if you met, like, Robert De Niro, for example, you wouldn't expect him to be one of his characters. You would expect him to be he's a person. But I've seen that as a performer. People will, like, meet me somewhere ridiculous where you just have no time or anything, and they're like, show us a trick. And you're like, what? I remember being asked on the way to the stage by someone to show me a trick. And later on, they called me an asshole after my routine, after I did the stage. And they were like, but you say all that good stuff up there, but you're an asshole. Like, I asked you to show me a trick. And I was like, I was fucking literally on the way to the stage.
There's nothing you can do about it. It's like when people go, oh, a comedian tells a joke. It's like, well, you've got a fucking attitude, so you're getting like that. That'll be the only time. Well, you've got a fucking attitude, so that's something. I'll tell you something that'll make me laugh. I'll beat you in your butt. Like, that's the guy on stage's defense mechanism fucking starting. But yeah, I can understand that. I can certainly understand. Like, that would annoy the piss out of me. Like, if there's no mercy, you turn up at a gig and go, you better be fucking funny. It's like, oh, fucking, where are you sitting?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, where are you sitting? Where are you sitting?
It's wild whenever it's like a guy's first couple times. Like, Daly's always let people go for the first time, and then they were like saying to him, you better be funny. And you're like, he's already shitting himself. Like, leave him alone. Or, like, I've seen a few of them backstage, and then when big names in the industry are there, they're like already freaking out, and then they see them, and then they're like, oh shit. Now, and then they start to panic because like their heroes there, and then they're gonna go on stage, and they don't realize that their hero's busy preparing his own show. He doesn't give a fuck about you going over there and going on. So, I think that the way people assume just because you are like that on stage, that's how you talk to your kids at home.
Yeah,
when
I love
Yeah,
I love the idea. Of that's like a scene from a movie. That's hilarious. The idea of you walking to the stage and somebody going, "Show us a trick." It's like, I'm just gonna go and do this first. Fucking, what a dick. I'm just. I've paid my money.
You not heard my name being called literally before I
Liam!
walked.
Where is he? Liam! I'm just 2 seconds, just like pick a card, you pick a card. What a nightmare. What a nightmare.
And then what even I offer people, like I need people to interact, so I'll say, does anybody want to come up with me? He never even put his hand up.
Asshole. Ah, he's an asshole then.
Yeah.
I'm calling that situation. That guy's an asshole. I'd have loved to have went on after you. I'd have loved to have went on after you.
I just was happy. I'm quite good at switching on and off, because I could have been quite devastating to someone to walk, just be called an asshole just before. I haven't even performed yet, and he already hates me. This is going to be a good night.
But you've done the ring miles. You've done the, you know what I mean. You've done the times, and it does help you. And I mean, I'm terrible in an argument. I will fucking start laughing. See, like, I am. Like I can't remember. My kid knocked over another kid at a soft play, and then they got into a wee scuffle, and then they broke up, and they were best friends. But I remember his dad, who was a big, aggressive-looking dude, pure kicking off at me, going, "It's fucking ridiculous, man. You should fucking do that." And I pure started smiling and pure started laughing about it. I went, fucking laughing at me. I went, I am, because it's ridiculous how angry you're getting. and you literally saw how deflated that made him. Like, this guy doesn't even find me intimidating. It's like, no, because what you're doing is hilarious. Yeah. What you're doing is actually hilarious. I want you to tell, so let's say you punch me, knock me out. You're then going to have to explain to someone why you were so angry. Yeah, and I think that is what made me laugh. I love that. I love random male aggression. It makes me fucking, I'm going to kick his cunt. And no, you're not. Shut up. Settle down.
I like did years of bar work and stuff, and you would get that. People would say, like, I'm getting threatened, and I remember a guy threatening, I'm going to kill you, and as all his mates were cheering, and I was like, hold on, you're going to murder me? Like, actually make me be dead because I won't serve you a drink, and all your mates think it's good that you are going to murder a human. And they're like,
your lifesaver.
We're not going to murder you. I'm like, well, that's what kill means. I'm going to beat you up. I'm like, you're going to beat me up? Why?
It doesn't sound very intimidating, does it? I think the worst I ever had was I'm going to, an audience member put down aggressively going, I'm going to kick your cunt in. And I went, oh, don't worry, I'll deal with this. Right. See the movie in your head. It's one shot. I go down. I don't cause you any problems, and everyone cheers and what a good guy you are. But you see, if this comes down to this kerfuffle, mate, that's not how real fights work. So I'm going to get a couple of licks in, and you're going to have to fucking deal with it. So why don't you just sit down? So anyway, and I remember a buddy of mine who was a comedian in the back went, that's like the best diffusing a situation I'd ever seen in my life, because the guy literally did go, oh, he seems, well, probably wouldn't he just, no, sit down. And also, I'd say that though, my arsehole's going like that, and I did remember thinking, I will twat him with a microphone. If he comes anywhere near me, he's getting a mic between the eyes. Maybe it'll buy me 5 minutes while I run out the back.
All the years of wrestling might have kicked in though. You might have started like slapping elbows and
I could choke a guy out.
Yeah, see, something would have appeared, Boston Crab or like something would have appeared out of Summer. Am I doing it?
I've done some jiu-jitsu and some grappling training, so I could probably get him in I could probably choke him. if worst came to the worst, if he were to turn away from me and stand exactly how he needs to, maybe, and he's not too, maybe I could choke him out. If he stands exactly like it does in the book and the instructor showed me, maybe I could choke him out.
I find that's hilarious whenever you get people that have done martial arts for maybe a month and they start you in the pub, and like I've had people grab my wrist and start doing something, and I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I do jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, okay, when are you going to start? What is happening here? That happened to me in bar 10, a bar I used to work in. The guy, I ended up doing a wrist flick, and I, like, one of the most basic drops, and he just hit the deck, and his brother just stood looking at me like, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. He told me he did jiu-jitsu and he lay down, so I'm assuming he's only at that part where he's lay down and then roll around with each other. I don't know how he ended up on the floor. I don't know what's going on. I think we went way over. I've taken you longer because I just love this conversation.
Sorry, well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you ask me some last minute stuff and we'll wrap this bad boy.
What is so one of the things that came up that I wanted to ask you was, what is the, like, you've done some crazy things and I've asked you about loads of them, but what is the one thing that sticks out for you as like the most prestigious or the best or the most exciting? Or
oh God, kind of comes back to what I was saying at the start. It's about not living in the moment. I don't think, you know, I think these gigs that I've gone away, I've walked up to with fear, and I've walked away from going, that was good. I did that. Like the first time in fact, the only time now I come to think of it, I've never emailed them back. No point right now, is there? Is the Belfast Empire. When I turned up at that, and I'd heard all the stories. I'd heard all the stories how it could be a bear pit and blah 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 blah. And I'm pretty sure Colin was MCing. The first time I saw him, just fucking amazing. If anyone should ever watch this and you've never watched Colin Murphy, you don't know what you're missing. It's incredible. Anyway, and it's his gig, really. I mean, it's his and Jake's. I've never met Jake, and I know Mickey did stuff from time to time. But I knew that I wasn't opening. But I knew I was closing. I was expected to do 40 minutes. Part of me went like, what if I'm dying on my hole 5 minutes in the Belfast Empire, in the middle of fucking Queens? What if I die in my hoop here? And it was another one of those situations like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing? And that, it sounds like an oddly specific thing, but because it had such a rep, and I remember going, this should be impossible, and fuck, it was amazing. It's still one of my favorite gigs that I've ever done. And the other one, they're all gig related. I mean, I should probably say like I've won a couple of awards and stuff like that. And
awards have you won?
I've won like a couple of Scottish Comedy Awards, and I won a BAFTA.
I like how excited you were about the belt. And then the awards, you're like, yeah, I got awards, yeah. Have you seen my belt? Have you seen my belt?
Have you seen it though? It's amazing. I think, I mean, lots of stuff with ICW. I mean, some of the time in my life was the tours that we went on across the UK. Getting better at that has been a real, I find I get buzzies from little things. I never go, yes, I've done it. I fucking made it. I go, that was a great show. That was good. I really enjoyed that. That is what I will be buzzing about at 11 o'clock the next morning. That's kind of that thing. So I think there's that. Getting to go and get, it's another Irish one. Is that not ridiculous? Supporting Frankie Boyle at the bottom of the Falls Road for the Philly, like that was like, because fuck man, they told me all the stories. Again, it was like, the guy last year walked off after 5 minutes, and you're like, boys, what have you done? Like, I'm thinking, I'm going to die in my hole here. Lenny Henry didn't last very long. Fuck. And my dad, who at the time had just moved back to the Falls Road, ironically, he thought he was wrapping up everything. I lived for another 4 years. And ended up moving back to Scotland. Wasted endeavour. But with the Irish family, that was a big thing to me. That was a big thing to me. So and then it went well, which again was like, what the fuck? So it's always stuff like that. Like doing ICW at the Hydro, being the one of the first faces of ICW on the WWE network is probably a recent thing, which
I've seen it. You've just been. That's recent. You just jumped on there, isn't it?
We just jumped on there. I'm more excited for the in-ring talents than anything else. The work, the miles they have done. I play a small part of that show, and the fact that is going on there and folk are liking it is just. I'm so excited for them. I hope it leads to amazing things. I'm worried that some of the horrible things I've said in commentary are going to come back and haunt me, but I'll deal with that at the time. I reckon I'll probably get cancelled around about 45. If cancelling is still a thing by then, if we haven't called it something else. That's it really, man. I don't think
another event that you got into by having a gig. as far as I remember, you were asked to do crowd warm up, and then that went.
That's right.
You knew
That's
wrestling.
right.
We're like,
That's
what
right.
this guy knows what he's talking about.
It was another, do you want to do this? It's like, fuck yes, I love wrestling. I love wrestling. And because I'm a genuine wrestling fan, I'm just not some Arsenal comedian trying to get a gig. It kind of worked out. And like I say, Dallas that runs the company is one of my best mates. And that all happened as part of it. It's I can't complain. If I just hope everything can come back for them. I think it's going to be an interesting world when everything does eventually open up, and I've no doubt that it will. Maybe I'll be working in Tesco by then. I'll be like, back to comedy, or something. But it's gonna be interesting. But I don't have specific events. I probably should have an answer. One of the most heartfelt events, one that is very close to my heart, was we did a gig in Glasgow about 8 years ago, I think it was, for the Clutha Trust, because there's a bar in the centre of Glasgow called the Clutha that a helicopter crashed into. I think it made international news, but there were people killed and families really affected. Within 20 days, we filled the O2 Academy here in Glasgow, and I was on with a very famous lineup, but I managed to blag my way onto this lineup by just pretty much saying, I'll bring the energy and I'll do stuff no other fucker is doing. I promise you, I can do something silly. Folk will love it. And that gig, despite it being such a sad situation, the warmth of that crowd, like I will say the Scottish crowd and the Irish crowd, they've got real similarities, real similarities. It's like home turf. But that one's always stuck with me because that was an emotional night. You got 7 minutes, son, make it count. I fucking just went out and blitzed it. But I was excited because I went, right, I didn't fuck it up. The next guy gets to come on and ride the wave. You know what I mean? Like everyone had been really, really good. But that's always been one that's stuck out in my mind. And that's one that the footage, you know, the worst thing is they filmed it and the footage got damaged. So the footage doesn't exist, but there's pictures. But it's actually one of those weird ones that I constantly go, that one. That's one of my all-time favorite gigs, and just all-time experiences. It was just love. It was a room full of love. Do you know what I mean? Full of love. It was awesome.
That's awesome. So where do the listeners and watchers find you? Where's best to get you?
You know, the best place to get a hold of me is probably on Facebook. I would probably say right now, I don't have a website. Don't really see the point. Everyone keeps telling me you need to get a website. I probably should, but I'm not going to. So if you put in Facebook, Billy Kirkwood Comedian, I will pop up. I post Facebook links on there, funny videos, what I am up to. You can also check out my radio show, which is Billy Kirkwood Breakfast, the broadcast on West FM. The good thing is about it is this, that I don't keep it particularly local. We have listeners in New Zealand, America, Canada, Qatar, Iraq. There's a boy over in Iraq that listens to us all the time. So if you find yourself one a little alternative to maybe the local stuff, feel free to send us there. And I'm on Instagram, Billy Kirkwood Comedy. That's probably the best places to find me.
I'll put links to everything when I share it. So
brilliant.
Billy, thanks again. I really appreciate you coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
This has been great. It's been God, I can't believe it's been so long.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's been so long. Oh, and it probably is perfect timing because it sounds like my wife has just come home with the baby.
Hooray! So, thanks again, all you listeners. Thank you very much, and I will speak to you on the next episode.